invite you to take your program, open it up to the inside. That's where your message guide is for today. We're going to be taking some time today to just think about January. Traditionally for churches is a time where we reflect on sanctity of human life. We take a Sunday to just give some focus to that important issue. I think most churches, or many churches, did it last week. Some did it the week before. We're doing it this week, and that's okay. But we want to take a few moments. I want to show you a video. It's very short, but to just kind of put some thoughts in your minds with regard to this. Sanctity of human life originally, when it kind of started years ago and kind of rolled out as a response to Roe versus Wade and that decision back in the 70s, it was very much a focus on the issue of abortion and the preborn, but there is a sense in which over the last number of years it's kind of its focus has widened to the idea that all life is important, that all life is sacred, and that God really has his hand in the life of those who have yet to draw their first breath, but also those who are on the verge of drawing their last breath. And so all of life is important. And so we want to show a video just to kind of prompt our thoughts with regard to that. Then we're going to look at Scripture a little bit and just see from Psalm 139 just how important life is, and just how important we are to the Lord. And hopefully that'll be encouraging to you. So let's take a look at the video.
It beats 100,000 times a day, 3 billion times in a lifetime. The metronome of life, keeping time, sustaining breath. Switched on by God, it beats with a holy purpose. It beats steady and strong, and when stopped, its absence is felt by the whole body. It feels grace, shares hope, serves others. It is affected by love, sunsets, and God's presence, pounding within the chest of the young and sustaining the final days of the old, beating within those who have it all and in those who have nothing. Every beat has a different rhythm, yet somehow beats as one, together, celebrating our Creator and His creation and every life worthy of every single beat. It is the beat of life, God created with holy purpose and divine delight, to always be honored, respected, and cherished. So, let every heartbeat we are given work to defend all of the heartbeats God has created.
It's a reminder for us that God has created us. We're fearfully, as the word says, wonderfully made. And being so, God knows us so well. And that leads to our message this morning, the idea that we are known. The idea that God knows us. That he knows us. How many people, if I were to start with a question this morning, how many people in your life would you say truly know you? Now it's rhetorical, don't yell out. But how many people really know you? Now, I'm not talking people who just know your name. Maybe they know a little about you. People that maybe you're sharing a seat with today. Or if you're joining us from home as we stream, who are sitting on the sofa with you. People that you might wave at in the grocery store. People who really know you. The kind of people who understand what makes you tick. Why you do the things that you do. Why you think the way that you do. People who may have walked with you through triumph and through tragedy, through challenges, and through moments of celebration. With you when life is messy and when life just seems to be miraculous. Who really knows you? Who is that person? Well, one would think that there are a couple of people in our lives like that, and there are. For me, I thought that was my wife, but then when we were in Texas the other week, I wasn't so sure. We decided we were going to do lunch at a barbecue place. That's kind of a famous barbecue place in the Dallas area. We went there, and the way they do it is you get in line, and all the barbecue is there. and you buy it by the pound. So I want a half a pound of brisket, I want 4 ribs, and I want some of this. And it just all goes on your plate, and they just weigh it out. And then you go to the next area, and they've got these little boats, these little like paper boats. And you can take as many boats as you want, and you just say, I want some of the macaroni and cheese, and I'm going to do another boat. I'm going to have some coleslaw, and then I'm going to go over here. I'm going to some greens, some collards. So we're there in line, and Debbie and I are walking through the line, and we're making our way through. And we got a little brisket, we got a little of this, we got a little of that. So I decide, I'm going to go. I'll take care of the salad stuff. And Debbie says, so she's got the boats. She's going to get the hot stuff. So we go and we check out, and I'm looking at the tray, and I'm like, what's that? And she had a boat, and it was like, because it's as much as you could get in the boat, so, and it was okra. Ooh. Ooh. I was like, what? So we started talking about it, and I was like, why did you get so much okra? What? And she's like, wow, you're going to have it. I said, never, ever has one craw passed these lips, nor will a craw ever pass these lips. I didn't know that. We both went to school in South Carolina. There's lots of okra. In fact, right next to the city where our college was is Orono. Not Orono. What's it called? What's the name of Deb, you got to help me. What's the name of but it's like they do the okra festival. And people do the okra strut, and they do all these kinds of things. Okra's like a huge deal. But not for me. She was convinced okra was the thing for me. And I'm like, no. We've been married years. And she's like, I never knew. Never knew. Some of you are looking forward to going home today. And the reason you're looking forward to going home is you're looking forward to watching the football game this afternoon to see whether the Pats get tuckered out in the Mile High Stadium or whatever there in Denver, whether they can breathe long enough to win the championship, etc. Now, some of you are die-hard, I'm sure, Pats fans. To me, it doesn't make a difference one way or another. But some of you, you're like, the Pats. And you could tell me all the players. If I was to show you a number, you'd say, oh, that's Steve whatever. You would know. But here's my question. Do you really know them? Do you really know them? Do you know about them, or do you really know them? Being truly known, deeply, personally, vulnerably, is really a rare thing. In our lives, there are probably few people who know us that way. Very few. Smithsonian Magazine in 2018 published a study. It found that the average person is able to recognize between 1,000 and 10,000 faces. Participants were shown images of people from all parts of their lives, their families, their former coworkers, current coworkers, teachers, classmates, pastors, even celebrities, and were asked a simple question: do you know this person? Do you know them? They didn't need to remember a name. They just needed to be able to recognize the face and saw it, if you would, as someone that they would know if you know in a crowd. There's a major difference between recognizing someone and truly knowing them. There's a big gap between the two, recognizing versus knowledge. This is our first thought here. We need to understand the difference here between these two things. Head knowledge is the first. Head knowledge is that surface level type of knowledge that we have. It's the idea of facts or statistics or trivia. Some of you may be able to, as I said, rattle off the Pats players, but do you really know them? That's head knowledge. But then there's a place where heart knowledge comes into play. That's deeper. It's built through relationship. It's built through time. It's built through presence with a person. It's one thing to know someone's name or perhaps an achievement. It's another thing to know their heart, to be known. And that leads us to today's transforming truth, and we'll get this out of the way here so that regardless of what happens outside today, we can make sure that we have something to walk away with for our hearts. And that is this, is that the deep aching desire within each of us is to be truly known, loved, and cared for. The deep desire within us is to be known in this deep and substantive way. Now, we see a couple examples of that in Scripture, and this isn't necessarily the passage we're going to just zero in on today, but a passage that speaks of this desire and this kind of way that God has wired us is John chapter 4. Now, John chapter 4 is the interaction between Jesus and the Samaritan woman. John 4 is informative. It's also transformative. It tells us the story of Jesus' interaction with a woman, but it also is transformative, what it really reveals spiritually about us and certainly in many senses about her and her spiritual condition. In John chapter 4, we see Jesus and the disciples are traveling through Samaria. It's a region that most Jews would have avoided. They wouldn't have gone there. It's the route less taken. In fact, they would really stay away from there. They would avoid it. But Jesus chooses this direct route. And so they arrive in this town of Sychar. And when they arrive there, it's basically midday. They're tired from their journey. They sit down beside the well that is there. And the disciples go, and they go to buy food. They go to get food, lunch for the boys. And so at this midday point, this hottest part of the day, Jesus is there at this inconvenient point outside of the city, the town. A Samaritan woman approaches to draw water. She comes there to get her water. Now, in the ancient world, drawing water was kind of a community thing. It was kind of like, yeah, we're getting together. I think Amish are very famous for the community things that they do. They'll raise a barn or whatever. We're all getting together Saturday. We're going to raise a barn. For people in Jesus' day, going to get water, some of these things was a very communal, community thing. But in this particular case, here comes this lady, and she's coming out. She comes out all alone. She comes in the middle of the day. Most of them coming when the air is cool in the morning. She comes in the midday when it is hot. Now, we don't know necessarily whether part of this is her own decision or it's the verdict of her community that nobody wants to be with her, so you don't show up and be with us. But this woman has been pushed to the margins, and she clearly doesn't belong. She's not in the rhythm of her community. She's not just a Samaritan, but she's an outsider, even amongst her own people. See, and I hadn't thought about that before until this week when I was thinking about it. Here are the Jews, the major in-group. And you've got the Samaritans who are, if you would, the out-group. And so here is a woman who is part of the out-group, but in the out-group, she's also a part of the out-group. She's got two strikes against her, two marks on her card. Yet Jesus speaks to her, and he doesn't look away. He doesn't ignore her. He doesn't move away. He initiates a conversation, and we see Jesus meets with her. And as they communicate and as they talk, something profound happens without even saying it outright. And we see in the communication and the conversation of these two that Jesus really knows her. If you're familiar with the story, he asks about her relationships, and he says that she knows I know full well because you've been with these men, and the one that you're with now isn't even your husband. He knows her. He knows her. And that really connects to our text this morning, Psalm 139. He really knows us. As his creation, he knows us. He knows us intimately, deeply. So let's begin. This is Psalm 139. We're going to begin looking in verse 1 and take it down to verse 4 this morning in this opening just moment. But here's what it says. The psalmist is writing, it says, "O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know my sitting down and my rising up. You understand my thought afar off. You comprehend my path and my lying down. And you are acquainted with all my ways, for there is not a word on my tongue, but behold, O Lord, you know it altogether." One commentator said this about Psalm 139, that it's really kind of a blend of different kinds of writings. They call them genre. It's kind of praise, but at the same time, it's thanksgiving. It's appreciation to God for his goodness. It's kind of lament. There's a sadness to it. It's meditation. It's thoughtfulness, but it's also prayer. There's a part of it that, if you would, is a teaching aspect of it, but at the same time, it has wisdom. It tries to communicate wisdom and give us some direction for our lives. And so as you read this, probably the first thing that you would want to say, "Oh Lord, you've searched me and known me." And the first thing that I'd probably say as David writes this here is, yikes. God, you know me? You know all my thoughts? You know me completely? You know my coming and my going? That can feel intimidating. That can be tough. That's going to be a rough thing. It can be uncomfortable. It's a scary thought. And if you listen closely to what David describes, what God knows, it's not that he just knows everything, which he does, but he knows me. And he knows you. He's familiar with us. He's not distant from us. He's close. He's not just a cold judge that when you walk into the courtroom, he knows you. He draws near to you. David Aiken, who is a commentator, wrote a commentary on the book of Psalms, writes with regard to this. And he writes with regard to what Psalm 139 reminds us of. But what does God know? And these are the things. The first is that he reminds us that God knows our hearts. He knows our hearts. The idea here is in that God knows our hearts is that he knows our intentions. Anyone can profess something with our mouths, but the doing of it is really a matter of our heart. God in his infinite power is able to discern the difference between lip service and genuine heart change. He knows our hearts. Psalm 139 also reveals to us that God knows our actions. He knows when we sit down and when we rise up. He knows our coming and our going. Distance isn't a limiting factor here. Trust me, God is as close to you here in this room today as he will be an hour from now when you're sitting in your living room with a cup of coffee and a sandwich. And he's as close to you then as he will be on Wednesday when you're sitting at your desk or you're doing your job, wherever that may be. He knows our actions. Anywhere we go, anything we do is not hidden from the sight of God. He knows us. And then third, he says God knows our words. He knows the things that we say. Verse 4 tells us that before a word is on our tongue, the Lord knows it altogether. He knows it completely. If you would, it's not only the words that we say, but it's the words that we almost say. You ever been in that moment and you just want to let it rip? You just want to let it rip. You just want to raw is real. I just want to let you know how I'm feeling. And here it is. God knows all of those things. This kind of knowledge is deep and it's consequential. It's exhaustive. He knows our hearts. He knows our actions. He knows our words. And it's intimidating. It can be. The fourth thing that he says is this. He says he knows the course of our lives. In verse 5, this is what he says. He says, you have hedged me behind and before and laid your hand upon me. Now, when you read this, it kind of sounds a little weird. It's not exactly the way that we would express something like this, but it confirms that God knows the course of our lives. You can't escape his knowledge. The idea is this hemming in. He hedged me behind and before. It's the idea that he has encircled us. He's encircled us. He's surrounded us. He's placed his hand upon us. And the idea here is not to say that God is boxing us in or he's trying to limit our potential. It's God saying here, you need to understand, I know all of these things about you. I protect you. It's not being confined. It's about being cared for. I care for you. It's not a wall to keep us from living and doing things. It's a shield that God puts around us to protect us, keep us from wandering off the path. And so it is that God knows us. He knows us. He knows the course of our lives. He knows our actions. He knows our words. He knows our hearts. And it goes on and he talks about it. And there's a couple of things just as we look at this last part of 139 together. David continues in verse 6 and he says this. Such knowledge, this truth, these truths, God's knowing our heart, God's knowing our actions, God knows our words, God knowing the course of our life and protecting and shielding us and leading us and guiding us and keeping us on the path. These things, he says, are just too amazing for me. It would be easy to look at that and to say, that's intimidating, that's scary, that's too invasive. But God says, I know you, and this is a love. This is a knowing of love. This is a knowing of love that he has for us. Such knowledge, he says, is too wonderful for me. It is high. I can't attain it. It's too much here, he's saying, to just wrap my mind around. His complete knowledge of me, his presence in every detail of my life is something that David just cannot seem to be able to just wrap himself. It's just too wonderful. It's too big. Have you ever had moments like that with God? Where your relationship with God and your just that moment of God's presence with you and that closeness, all of a sudden it just becomes more than you can manage and you're like, I can't even believe this. Have you ever gone somewhere and seen God's creation or viewed his creation and stuff like that and just said, I can't even imagine this. That's incredible. That's incredible. It's incredible. Some of you are, if you would, aurora borealis peepers. You know, you when you hear that it's going to be a night where you can maybe see it, you're out and about. You're out and about trying to find that spot to take that picture that's going to be the keeper. And you're going to actually see it. And some of you are like that. Some of you are here and you're like, oh yeah, I was out tonight. You know, if you want to join me, DM me and I'll, let's see what happens kind of thing. My wife is dying to see the aurora borealis. She will. Oh, it's tonight. Tonight could be the night, and she'll disappear with the car, and she'll drive around trying to find that spot to click that one pic that will be the pic. I saw it, and I did it. And why do you do that? Why do you do that? It's not just. It's because when you see that, you say, God is amazing. His power is it's wonderful. It's wonderful. You're in that moment and you're just like, this is just beyond me. The majesty of what God has created. And his knowledge of us, of our hearts and all that we are. That's an amazing, amazing thing. And it's really, if you would, from this portion of Psalm 139, the first personal experience, the first big idea that David walks us through. In light of all these things, first, what do we see? God knows us fully. He knows our hearts. He knows our actions. He knows our words. He knows our lives and the course of our lives. What does Ephesians chapter 2 remind us of? That we are his workmanship created in Christ Jesus to do good works that he's planned for us to do. He knows that purpose. He knows that plan. He's given us that plan. He knows us fully. Verse 7 goes on and leads us to our second one. It begins here. It says, where can I then go from your presence, from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend into heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, you're there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, your right hand shall behold me. Those are amazing thoughts. I cannot escape him. There's no place that I can go where he is not there, where he won't find me. For some of us, physically running, we would be like, boy, I wish I could run. We can't run away from him. You can't run so fast or so far that he's not there. Spiritually speaking, emotionally withdrawing or retreating, avoiding God in our hearts, he's still there. He's still there. Creates an interesting issue for us, this proximity and this place that God has with us. A number of years ago, there was a series of books that were written to speak to some psychological issues, emotional issues, those types of things. And they had to do with issues, not just those, but issues that largely affected the church and ministry and believers. It was called the Critical Concern series. The first book in that series was called The Trauma of Transparency. It was written by a pastor named J. Grant Howard. And he talked about the issue of proximity, relationship proximity, and the idea of what happens when we get too close to other people and things kind of aren't working and aren't right, kind of thing. And he talks about it, and he says what we end up with is, he says, we really end up with two responses. And in his own words, he basically says it's very similar with God. God's perfect. So from his perspective, he's always relating perfectly with us. But we don't always relate perfectly with him. But yet our response is the same as if we were relating with somebody here on a horizontal level. And he does two things. There's really two ways to do this. Our response to God being so close to us is, first, we can run from him. We can try to escape him. We can try to get away from him. And after we hear what we know about God here, that's kind of silly, isn't it? Adam and Eve tried to flee the presence of God. When God came in the cool of the day to be with them, they hid in, and God was like, why are you hiding? And then the cat was out of the bag. What did the Samaritan woman try to do? Well, her showing up in the middle of the day may have been some aspect of hiding, but she certainly couldn't hide from Jesus what was going on in her life. And what do we see? She finally stops running, and she embraces Jesus and allows Jesus to speak into her life, into the places that she's trying to hide. And here, that's what David is describing. He says, I can't run. You know me completely. But then there's also this second idea, and this is it. It's the idea of it can cause us, rather than running, it can cause us to rest. A proper response to who God is, that he knows us fully, brings us to a place where we can rest. We can rest in him. We can look to him and we can say, it's okay. He has surrounded me completely, and he knows my words and my thoughts, and he knows my heart, and he knows his plan for me. I can rest there. And that leads us to the second truth about his character. Not only is it that he knows us fully, and if you want to use a theological term, that's omniscience. He knows everything. There's this second, which is God is with us completely. He's with us completely. He knows us fully. He's with us completely. This is the omnipresence of God. He's always there. He's always there. Let me quickly address the third issue here that he gives us. This is verse 13 and 14. It says, you formed my inward parts. You covered me in my mother's womb. I'll praise you, for I'm fearfully, wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows full well. And here David hops on the idea, God knows me, God is with me, omniscience, omnipresence. But what? Omnipotence. This God who knows me is omnipotent. He is the one who forms me. His power has made me. It covers me in my mother's womb. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am a marvelous work of God's power, and my soul knows it. Dr. James Merritt wrote a book a number of years ago called The Mystery of Creation, and this is what he says in that book. He says, a single thread of DNA from one human cell contains information equivalent to a library of 1,000 volumes, or 600,000 printed pages with 500 words on each page. There's lots of different ways that you could put this out there using statistics, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. For those of you who are old like me and can remember going to a library, do you remember what the library is? They had something called the encyclopedia. Remember, it was in the reference section, and they wouldn't let you take it out. Why? Because if you lost one, it was basically throw the whole thing away. But basically, we know that there's 50 times at least the amount of information in DNA than the entire Encyclopedia Britannica. And so we know God's power is at work. It's not random. It's not accidental. God has crafted us. You knit me together in my mother's womb. He's describing a divine act of craftsmanship. He's not just being poetic. And so the third thing we see here is that he has made us wonderfully. He has made us wonderfully. He knows us fully. He knows us fully. He is with us completely. We are never gone from his presence. And his power is at work in our lives, forming us for great purposes. He's the author of life. So today, just a challenge, just a thought with regard to just how fearfully and wonderfully we're made. How deeply and intimately God knows us. It isn't something we should run away from. In fact, it's something that we should embrace. We shouldn't run, but we should rest in him. So wherever you're at in your relationship with him today, let me tell you that this one who knows you loves you, and he loves you deeply. And he's there. He has provided his son. He desires to embrace you and to be a part of your life. Will you open that door? Will you let him in? Whether you are a youngin' or an olden, he wants to have a relationship with you, and he knows you, and he loves you. Psalm 139, God has done a wonderful thing in you and me. And let's keep it up. Let's pray. Father, thank you for